Hi, everybody. Michael P. Spradlin. I'm back with Chapter 12 of The Enemy Above. Thanks to all of you who have been following along and participating in this read-along. Just a reminder, you can search hashtag authors take action and hashtag authors give back on any social media platform, and you'll find lots of authors that are reading, sharing their work, activities, interviews, all kinds of materials to help young readers and regular readers of any age, get through this coronavirus. So let's jump into Chapter 12 and remember that we all have a choice, and it's very easy for us to choose to be kind. So be kind to one another, watch out for each other, and let's pull together the way America has before, and we will get through this, okay? Here's Chapter 12, The Enemy Above. Major Von Dusen and his men waited at the edge of the depression for several minutes. They strained to hear the two men they'd been following. Had they stopped to rest or to catch a field mouse for supper? Van Dusen had no idea. Only the sound of his own ragged breathing disturbed the silence. Where were they? The dried pond was not that big, and the moon was bright. He should be able to see them. Sergeant Eberhard returned to his side. "Mein Major," he asked. "Sie müssen Geister sein, Sergeant," Von Dusen said. "They must be ghosts." He studied the terrain. In truth, there were many places for two men to hide. Perhaps they had realized they were being followed and hidden among the rocks and bushes. Motioning to his men on the opposite side, Van Dusen gestured for them to go down into the depression and search for their quarry. "Forward, Sergeant," he said. "We will comb the area. The Juden are here, I am certain of it. But be careful. They could be armed." The two men crept slowly down the incline, their machine guns held at the waist, ready to fire. If the fugitives tried anything, they would be cut down like a scythe slashing through wheat. The Germans moved cautiously and quietly. Working as a team, they investigated each rock and tree, each cluster of bushes and copse of trees. But so far, the men were nowhere to be found. It was as if they had turned to mist and faded away. Von Dusen watched his two privates working their way toward him. They moved in concert just as he and Eberhard did, making sure each possible hiding place was clear before moving on. Several more minutes passed. Periodically, Von Dusen would signal the squad to halt so they could listen for the rustle of clothing, the gasp of a breath, the beat of a heart. But he heard nothing. Von Dusen was baffled. 100 meters remained between the Major and his two privates. The ground was rocky, the boulders that littered it large. If the Juden were still here, this would be where they are hiding. "Be ready, Sergeant," he whispered. "Ja," Eberhard answered. A boulder nearly the size of an automobile stood directly ahead of them. Von Dusen went left and Eberhard to the right. They leapt around the boulder, guns at the ready. But the Jews were not there. Behind them, they heard a rustle in the bushes. Von Dusen turned quickly, ready to fire. But before he could pull the trigger, a large hare bolted from the underbrush and darted away. Von Dusen took a breath to calm his nerves. Silently, he cursed himself. A soldier of the Reich did not jump in fear at the appearance of a rabbit. A Gestapo major was not afraid of two Jewish peasants. This was ridiculous. He needed to remain calm and to find what he was looking for. He waved his gun, motioning Eberhard forward. Another large boulder lay ahead of them, and they repeated their crawl around it. Von Dusen peered around the opposite side of the boulder, expected to find the two huddling Jews. But that was not what awaited him. Sitting on the ground were two milk cans, the very ones the two Juden had been carrying. Von Dusen kicked one of them as hard as he could. Water spilled out and ran through the dirt in tiny rivulets. Just as he feared, his squad had been discovered. But where had the Jews gone? They had to be somewhere. His men joined him at the giant boulder. They looked at the milk cans and then at the Major with disbelief on their faces. "Did you see anything?" Von Dusen demanded. "No, mein Major," they answered in unison. Von Dusen paced back and forth. Somehow he had been outwitted. He had figured out where the fugitives were, yet they still managed to elude him. When he finally caught up to them, he would make them wish they had never been born. They would tell him everything. Everything. They would reveal the location of every Jew in the entire area. "Tomorrow," Von Dusen said. "Tomorrow we come back during morning hours. We will bring additional men and search every stone and shrub in this area. We will find out how these Juden managed to escape the Gestapo. Is that understood?" "Ja, mein Major," his squad answered. "Heil Hitler," Von Dusen said, giving the Nazi salute, which his men returned. Von Dusen clenched his fists, turned, and retreated. His men struggling to keep up with their superior. The empty milk cans, watch them go. And that's the end of chapter 12, and we'll be back tomorrow with chapter 13. Everyone stay safe, stay home, let's flatten the curve. Bye-bye.